What do you get when you combine a Flail with a Blunderbuss? Well, let me show you. You get the Brute. In this build guide, I am going to show you my full setup with gear and attributes for the long-awaited and highly anticipated Brute guide. And I am pleased to inform you it is still strong after all of the nerfs it just received. If you like what you see and you found this helpful, please hit that like button because it helps me out so much. Without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Alright, it is finally time to show you guys the Brute build. So let's talk about the gear. We are going to be running this build in full heavy. Now I've been testing this in medium and in heavy, and I don't really see any point to going medium over heavy. The extra defensibility you get from heavy far outweighs the 10% extra damage that you get from medium. The dodges are the same, they cost the same. The only difference is that you're going to live longer in heavy and you deal pretty much the same damage. So for the build up, we're going to be running full shirking heal, shirking fortification times 5. We're going to get 5 shirking heals and 4 shirking fortification. That is because we are running the tumbler foot wraps. Last perk we're going to put on these is shirking heals, and that is why we have 5 of those and 4 of shirking fortification. I had to swap out my helmet because originally before the patch I was running with the unyielding helmet. That is no longer an option really, because I tested the difference between tumblers and no tumblers, and you get about 2k health more for your shirkings using these boots. So without it you're healing for like less than 3k, and that's just too low to justify running in heavy at least. So the tumblers are going to be best in slot now, even in heavy. Other than that, the perks that we want to rock as our third, you want to make sure that you have exhaustive net shot for your blunderbuss, which reduces the stamina regen of your enemy. I'm going to put that on my gloves because I don't really need ice harnessing. I was just unlucky and got that as my third perk on my craft. So I'm going to be switching that on my gloves or my helmet. I had to switch my helmet today, so I just got this from the gypsum kiln. Free entry level gear right here. Just be careful about magnify. If you have too much magnify, you're going to be in trouble. But it works for me. And the other perks are not that bad. Fire harnessing lets you deal a little bit more damage with your BB, so it's okay. I opted to go for refreshing before the patch because having shorter cooldowns felt really great. Now I'm probably going to be switching that out for invigorated because the dots are kind of a big problem, especially when you're running around without a healer. Dots really do melt you away, and anything you can do to get those dots off of you faster is going to be positive, so probably run invigorated as your third perk, but make sure you have exhaustive net shot. It is essential though that you run shirking for and shirking heal on as many pieces as you can. This is drastically going to increase the effectiveness of this build. Moving over to the shield, the perk that we have to make sure to get here is counterattack. This is an extremely strong perk, and it wouldn't surprise me if this gets nerfed in the future, but for now it gives you 30% in power on any blocked attack. This persists with a weapon swap as well, so you can just block an attack, switch over to your BB with your 30% in power and just blast people. This has no cooldown either. Another thing, this actually triggers when you use barrage, so you're blocking while you use barrage, right? This counts as a block, and that will trigger empower. So you can charge towards somebody, they shoot you, and then you land at their feet with empower and strike them down with the barrage attack. So really strong, get counter attack, best in slot perk right there. I went for refreshing. I like cooldown reduction and then more cooldown reduction with refreshing defense. We got sturdy fortification, which sounds good on paper, but it really isn't. You lose your stacks when you swap weapon, so it's kind of niche. Sometimes it's useful, most of the time it's not. Maybe keen speed or something else would be better, but for now I'm just keeping it because it doesn't hurt to have it there. We just want to stack fortify. Fortify doesn't have any cap, so you just want to get as much as you can. And I want to address the shirking heal situation because yes, they did nerf it today. Shirking heal now heals you for about 50% less than what it did pre-patch. So in total now, with the maximum setup that I have here, I think this is about as much healing as you can possibly get out of shirking heal with this setup. I am healing for over 4k, so it's still super decent. Shirking heal is still best in slot perk. You're still going to be at a big disadvantage if you don't run it, so definitely make sure that you go out and get yourself some shirking heal gear regardless of what build you play. Moving over to our Flail. I thought this was going to be a best in slot perk, but Flame Attunement is totally garbage. It's giving me 100 damage extra, wasted perk right there. Make sure you get Burning Smite though. This will extend the cooldown of your enemy by 35% every time you smite them. It's stupidly good. Make sure you get this. And then Refreshing move just to CDR. CDR is awesome. And then for the last perk you can get like Plague Strikes, Plague Crits, Thwarting Strikes, Keen Speed, something along those lines. For the artifact we're running Blunderbuss with a gem slot. If you don't know how to get a gem slot, you just gotta go to your faction vendor, buy the gem setting. Once you have that in your inventory, the option to put that on your pestilence is going to show up at the kiln. For our heart rune, we are running the cunning heart rune of Primal Fury. This is an extremely fun heart rune. You're going to be hitting people for 3k per light attack. You can knock people down. You have perma grit. You're immune to everything except for roots. Be mindful that the Void Gauntlet Scream will still stagger you though. Kind of messed up. If that happens, you'll probably die. But unless you have a healer, of course. But yeah, this is just such a good ability. It also staggers people on activation and deals high, like 3-4k damage on activation. So that's the one that I'm running. But Heart Rune is up for preference. That is up to you, what you feel best with. As for the jewelry, Ankh is still going to be best in slot. I tried Endless Thirst. Maybe you like Endless Thirst. It's totally up to you. I personally don't like it because the cooldowns are so long, but the heals are really strong though. So I'm gonna run more tests in the future and update you guys if I end up switching to Endless Thirst. Definitely it is an option, but for clump fights and mass PvP, Ankh is still gonna be the best choice. The perk that we chose for this one is gonna be Stamina Recovery. Anything you can do to get extra stamina is a big plus with the shirking build, so that is why we went with that. Then for the ring, we're gonna go for Fire Damage, Leeching and Hardy. Fire Damage helps you deal more damage with your Blunderbuss. Hardy is essential, always pick this. And then Leeching just for, you know, we're just trying to get as much self-sustain as we can. We are so sustain starved. Potions barely heal anymore. Which brings us to our earring. Today they did nerf Healthy Toast and they nerfed it hard. It used to heal for over 3k and now it heals for around 1600, and this is regardless. It's based on your base health. Base health is without con, so that is your health at 5 con basically, which is 8k. So it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter with divine or focus or whatever, it's still gonna heal for 1600 regardless of your build. But that doesn't stop us from using it. Healthy Toast is still gonna be worth. It is a potion. Nevertheless, maybe I end up changing it in the future, but for now this is looking good. However, I do think we're going to be dropping Refreshing Toast, and I think a better earring will look something like this. Healthy Toast, Nimble, and Healing Heart. We have to see if Nimble is actually worth, but I feel like just anything I can do to also get my stamina when I need it is going to be positive, so for now I'm looking to get this in 700. Healing Heart is going to be amazing, of course, especially when we run the Cunning Heart Rune of Primal Fury, because this one charges really fast. You're going to have a lot of uptime, and you're also going to be ready for battle once you pop it, because that 10% heal, of course, is affected by Divine and Center of Attention. As for our Runeglass, we're going to be running Ignited Runeglass, of course, in all of our pieces, just to buff the BB. Our BB is our damage here. Flail is just utility. It barely does any damage. So anything we can do to buff the BB damage is positive. We're going to be running Ignited for all of our Runeglass variants, and then probably a stack of 3 rubies, maybe even 4 rubies. I have to see. Fire Staff is still hitting really hard in heavy, but the bow is also hitting really hard in heavy, but the bow hits hard because it uses the VG artifact, so I don't know if it's worth stacking thrust against it. We have 3 onyx, regular onyx in our jewelry, and then probably 3 ruby is going to be best. I don't know the exact best values for it yet. I haven't even put Runeglass in some of these pieces yet because I just swapped them out, but 3 ruby, 2 opal, 3 onyx is what I'm thinking about, but you can test that for yourself. I think that it's going to be a very decent split though. And the Runeglass in armor, of course, for all pieces. Our attribute spread is going to be looking like this for maximum damage. I tested this with 200 con and 50 focus, and you're definitely more tanky, but the 50 focus is giving you like 400 extra health per shirking heal, so it's not really that big. Of course, everything helps if you are in mass scale PvP, and then maybe you want the 200 con to also get increased healing from shirking heals. So it's kind of up to you. In that case, you want to go 200 or as close to it, 200 plus. I think the stat spread that I can achieve is going to be with the Magnify, because obviously a lot of your all of your artifacts have Magnify. It's gonna look like this. So now I'm not even able to do it because I've swapped out my helmet, so I have one magnify piece too much. I could do it before I swapped out my helmet. Yeah, because now I have 2 magnify. Okay, so I'm not able to do it. If you only have artifact magnify and no other piece of magnify, the stat would look like 154 intelligence, 208 strength, 208 con, and 50 focus. But in any case, I think now the best value is going to be 300, 150 plus health, 150 intelligence. Obviously the reason for the int is going to be the attribute perks that it gives you. You want to get to 150 for maximum damage output, and then strength obviously is going to boost both your PP and your flail, and then as much con as possible over 150, because you're going to need at least 150, otherwise just no point even playing heavy. But with this setup you still feel really tanky. That is because we have shirking fort and shirking heal times 5, so you're still going to be very survivable, and you just need to play correctly, make use of your shield, make use of your positioning, barrage, blocks. So you just need to use your abilities correctly and you will be extremely tanky. So I guess that brings us over to the weapon perks, and this is going to be how our flail looks like. In my old brute guide I said vortex was going to be better than trip, but honestly trip is better than vortex. The reason for this is obviously because we can trip somebody, knock them down to the ground, and then blast them with the BB. Super strong combo. So the 3 abilities that we're going to go for here is smite, barrage, and trip. Barrage, we're going to upgrade it all the way, reduce the cooldown, give it a stagger. This is actually a very important point. Make sure that you're using a kite shield with this build. That if you don't use a kite shield, you're not going to get the stagger. So you always want to use a kite shield even though you're in full heavy. And then we're going to upgrade it again so that when you stand in that point, you get deflecting frailty for 3 seconds. So when enemies attack you, you inflict a stacking weaken on them, which reduces the damage dealt by the enemy by 5% per stack for 5 seconds, which stacks up to 5 times. And additionally, while this effect is active, when allies are hit, they gain 10% lifesteal for 30 seconds. So we're gonna upgrade smite all the way. Then we're gonna get weight superiority, and since we're in heavy, anytime we get hit or we block a hit, we reduce our cooldowns by 1%. Then we're gonna get the happy flails. Hitting a target with a basic attack within 3 seconds of using an ability will inflict exhaust, reducing stamina regen rate by 15% for 5 seconds. This of course stacks with exhaustive net shot, which means that you're gonna be really annoying for the enemy because they're gonna struggle a lot with their stamina management. Then we're gonna get spiky impairment. Being hit or blocking hit from a melee attack while you are above 90% health inflicts a stack of impairment for 6 seconds on the attacker, dealing 10% weapon damage per second and inflicting weaken. This reducing their damage by 10%, which stacks up to 3 times. Then we're gonna get Vital Embrace. While you're at or below 50% health, all flail attacks gain 3% lifesteal while attacking targets, max 3 targets at once. While you're above 50% health, all flail attacks extend the duration of damage over time effects on the targets by 7%. This is really good perk because in the dot heavy meta that we have right now, more and more people are starting to stack stuff like perks like Invigorated and things like this, so you can extend their dots and hurt them more when you're in team play situations. Then we're gonna get Leader of the Pack. When no allies are within 5 meters, all flail attacks deal 10% more base damage, and when one or more ally are within 5 meters, they gain a 5% in power. Then moving over to the Bastion side, we're gonna get Barrage. This is your charge ability. You charge 10 meters forward and slam the ground. This staggers the enemy. If you land Barrage and stagger the enemy, you can almost always land Smite as well and stagger them again. If you land Smite stagger, you can trip them and knock them down to the ground, and then it's just stagger, stagger, trip. And that's a guaranteed combo, I am pretty sure. Maybe if somebody has extremely low ping, they're able to dodge out of it, but 9 out of 10 times, people do not dodge out of it though. We're gonna upgrade it to Defensive Rush. Hitting a target when any of the barrages hits will grant a 30% Fortify. The Fortify has a 2 seconds duration, and every hit extends the duration of the status effect by 2 seconds to a maximum of 8 seconds. Then we're gonna upgrade it again. We have a Kite Shield, so anytime you charge people or charge through people, you inflict a 20% slow for them for 4 seconds. Then we're gonna upgrade it again to give it Bulldoze. This makes it so that while you are charging, you block all incoming attacks. It doesn't block all incoming attacks though. You can still be staggered and stunned and rooted, so be aware of that. AoE abilities also still hit you, like Fireball or Pillar of Fire or stuff like that. Rain of Arrows maybe. I'm not sure about Rain of Arrows, but it does block projectiles, so if a bow is shooting at you, you can just charge at him head first. He's not going to be able to damage you with anything else than his dots. If he shoots you with poison shot, he still applies the dot on you, but the direct damage is not going to hit you. Then we're going to upgrade it to the final point, which is Flail. To launch barrage's attacks now trigger a 2.5 blast of energy around the target on hit, dealing 35% weapon damage to all nearby targets and granting Fortify to all of your allies within that radius, increasing their armor by 20% for 8 seconds. That is really good in a team play setting. You can give your allies 20% Fortify for 8 seconds. That is a pretty damn good buff, so it's worth picking that one up. Then we're going to pick up Vital Suppressant. While you are at or above 50% health, reduce damage taken by 4%, while below 50% health, reduce the attacker's stamina damage dealt while blocking by 10%. And I just died. Let's get through this then before I time out. Then we're gonna move over to Trip. Trip is your knockdown ability, does 50% weapon damage and knocking the enemy to the ground, just like a sweep for example. We're gonna upgrade this again. This one is interesting. Tripping a target applies a special debuff to the target lasting 3 seconds. Allies that hit the affected enemy will reduce the duration of all damage over time effects on themselves by 10% per hit while active. Very nice. Then lastly, this one is also super good. You've got Flail. They're really creative with these names, huh? Hitting weakened targets with Trip will inflict 15% rend for 5 seconds on the target and granting 15% Fortify on yourself for 5 seconds. Obviously, we have many ways of inflicting a weaken on targets, so you're gonna have uptime on this almost always. And like I said, the follow up to Trip is gonna be the BB combo, so you rend them for 15% and then slap them with the BB. Super strong. Then lastly, we're gonna get Mitigated Protection. While in heavy, you have 5% absorption, while at full health, which goes up to 20% as your health decreases. This is going to be a way better perk than Reinforced Vitality, because the 25% increased health at 150 con was like 500 health, something like that. Not really worth it. This is going to give you way more protection. Alright, let me respawn and I will come back and tell you the rest. Alright then, moving over to the BB. We're going to be going with Netshot, Shrapnel and Grenades. The Netshot, we're not going to be upgrading it, so it's going to be a slightly slower duration on the slow, but it's going to be a constant 40% instead of a 50% which degrades. Then we're going to be getting the Shrapnel Blast. We're going to upgrade this all the way. Maximum damage, CDR, range, and the grenade that it drops. If you play BB, just always upgrade Shrapnel all the way. Then we're going to get Deep Load. The last shot loaded into the Blunderbuss will do 15% increased damage. Be mindful of this so you don't waste it on the iframes. I see a lot of people, and myself included, I make this mistake. You do your BB combo, which is typically a grenade shot, auto attack, shrapnel, auto attack. But in most cases, people will dodge the last attack, right? Because even if they're knocked down or something, by the time you get to your last shot, they can dodge. So just wait for their dodge and then shoot them. Then we're gonna get Fortifying Aggression. Successful hits within 3 meters grant Fortify, increases armor by 10% for 2 seconds. Then we're gonna get Future Planning. Using any ability reduces all other ability cooldowns by 4%. Then we're gonna get Splitting Grenades, upgrade them all the way to give them dots, haste, and extra damage. Extra damage against targets with 50% health. And then we're gonna get On a Roll. Triggering an ability grants a 3% Fortify for 10 seconds, which stacks up to 5 times. Next up, we're gonna get Buckshot. Deal 10% increased damage to any target as long as you did not damage them in the last 8 seconds. And then Artillery. Direct damage from abilities is increased by 15% if the victim is 10 meters further away. I just love that it says victim and not target or enemy. It says victim, because that is kind of true, right? Any player that you shoot with a BB is definitely a victim, not an enemy. Next up, we're gonna get Extended Chamber. This makes you get 1 more shot in your chamber if you hold on to the bullet for 2 seconds without doing any inputs. And then lastly, we're gonna get Last Chance, which gives you 50% Fortify anytime you drop below 50% health for 4 seconds. 30-second cooldown on this one though. And then the bread and butter of this build is going to be Double Down. Once every 30 seconds, your next ability used will have its cooldown reduced by 50%. You have a little icon on your buff bar which shows you this, so be mindful of it. With this you can get a 5-second cooldown on your net shot. You can get like, what is it, 10-second cooldown on your shrapnel, but you have CDR built in, so effectively it's like 3-second cooldown on your shrapnel. Something disgusting like that. So double down is absolutely wild, and it is actually giving me a lot more DPS than running out on load. So yeah, double down is the... Just be mindful of which ability you use depending on the situation to give you that short cooldown on that ability. You can also do double grenade. Most cases it's useful to do double net shot though. It's probably the most use you get out of it. So with that, it brings us to the end of this build guide. The build has certainly been nerfed quite a bit, but you're still super strong. It wasn't just this build that got nerfed, every single build got nerfed, so we're still kind of equally as strong. You're not going to be able to tank like 10 people anymore like we could before the patch, but if you play it correctly you can definitely 1vx quite easily. Like I said, you're gonna have a hard time catching range players, but on the upside you're gonna be an absolute beast if you're in a team play setting. If you have a healer with you, you are guaranteed a raid boss. It's extremely difficult to bring you down because you have so many ways to turn the situation around. Kind of like you can see here in the background, your shirking heal is still healing for quite a lot. Your barrage acts as a active block, but it doesn't cost you any stamina. Super effective to use, not just for mobility, but just to activate the block. You can run in a little circle, you know. You have a lot of tools at your disposal. You have a lot of buffs, a lot of debuffs. You're going to be helping your teammates. You're going to be hurting the enemy. The Flail is extremely strong when you play it correctly. There definitely is a certain skill cap involved because you definitely need to read up and understand what all of your abilities and passives do in order to put it into full effect. So don't be disgruntled if you don't have like amazing results right away. Maybe you are just not using your abilities correctly. Something so simple as standing in your little smite circle after you place it can really make a huge difference, because standing in it makes your enemies weaker if they attack you, things like that. There is a lot to keep in mind with the Flail, but if you play it correctly you can be an absolute beast. And with that, I would just like to say thank you for watching this video. I really hope it is helpful for you. I know there's a lot of people who are super excited to see this guide come out. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below and I'll do my best to give you assistance. We are going to keep refining this build though and making it better over time, so if I come up with some new ways to make it even better, I will definitely update the guide. If you did find this video helpful, I would super appreciate if you could just hit that like button. It really does help me out so much. And then as always, have a nice day of peace.